deal with
It's
them in the same way we deal with every other person in love.
right.
Because
Okay.
they're not evil,
Yeah.
as because they are
Mhm,
those who have not yet realized the truth and are deceived. So
mhm.
they're living in deception. We need to bring the light. If we condemn them and call them evil, then all we're doing is actually turning them away from the love of God rather than to the love of God. So we need to bring light. And actually it isn't about evil, it's about a revealing of the systems of men, which in a sense is the real word evil, which is poneros in Greek, which means hardships, labor, and toil, which means those following the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Of course, there are the governmental systems, there are Luciferian systems in the world, which are trying to maintain the status quo of keeping people from the light and hiding people from the truth so that they can continue operating in their financial and other governmental control systems. But that doesn't mean they're evil, as in that they're unredeemable. They're already been saved, they're already been forgiven. We need to administer love to them. And by coming in the same spirit that they operate in, we're not going to reach them. We need to come in the opposite spirit. Therefore, seeing it as deceived people who have not yet discovered the reality of their identity is how I would deal with anybody, no matter what they're doing, because Jesus does not differentiate between our behavior. Anything which comes from our lost identity is an expression of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and independence. He doesn't differentiate between what they're doing and anyone else is doing. So if you operate at a lost identity, often called sin, then Jesus sees it the same way. And what does he do on those who operate in lost identity and sin? Have mercy and have limitless grace and unconditional love to them. That's how he deals with it. And mercy triumphs over man's judgment. So we've got to be very careful. We do not condemn and judge those who are children of God. Now, they may have mixture of DNA and seed, as probably all of us have to a degree, and they may be influenced by some of that to follow those who are looking for that Luciferian agenda and antichrist agenda and not following Jesus. But bottom line is, we're never going to reach them by condemning them, because Jesus didn't come in to condemn the world, he came to save the world. So we've got to look at saving and introducing them to salvation rather than looking to condemn their behavior, because their behavior is no different than anyone else's behavior if it's coming from lost identity. Jesus doesn't differentiate sort of levels of lost identity. It's all just a symptom of people don't know who they are yet. So we've got to be careful we don't start making judgments on what people's behavior is, because Jesus has already forgiven that behavior. And if we don't forgive that behavior, then we're operating like the unforgiving servant, because we have been forgiven, therefore we are called to forgive. And if we don't forgive, we'll end up in the torture chamber of bitterness and resentment. So we've got to operate in love. Love is unconditional. So I can't pick and choose who I offer love to. So I've got to offer love to the same degree to those who might be my family and friends, or to those who might be operating in extreme forms of lost identity. Otherwise, I'm differentiating, and Jesus doesn't. Jesus died for all people, every one of his children. So that's the way we've got to look at it now. So when you look around and see all the terrible things going on in the world, look at what's behind that. Don't look at the people. Don't look at flesh and blood. Don't treat people in that way. Look at the spiritual dynamic that's behind what may be influencing them, and let's see if we can introduce them to the light, which we won't do if we're going to condemn them and condemn their behavior personally. I'm not saying we agree with the negative things people do. Of course we don't. But you separate, as God does, what they're doing from lost identity from who they are as his children. Every one of the people who are out there doing what we call bad things are his children. They just don't know they're his children, so they're operating as if they weren't. If we can help them to find who they are, then they'll change their behavior. Their behavior will change out of their identity. Let's help them find their identity. And we have to separate what is people's behaviors from who they are. Obviously, if people are in lost identity, they're going to operate that way. That's just the way it always has been. But if we look at their external behaviors and we look at what they're doing on the external and don't look at who they are and don't look at them the way God does, which is as his children, then we'll miss great opportunities of being able to share the truth and light with them and help them turn from darkness to light by showing them the light. If we just show them more darkness, then they're just going to stay in their lost state. And God wants us to enter into a way of looking at people which looks at who they are from his perspective, not from ours. People judge externally. God looks at the heart, and he's already in their heart working to bring them to a realization of their identity in him.